There are names in history that carry power. Some inspire hope, some command respect, and some are never meant to be spoken out loud. During the Northern Ireland conflict, there was one name that lived in whispers. Not a politician, not a general, not a gunman known to the public. A code name, Stakeknife. For decades, he was a rumor, a shadow, a warning passed quietly in pubs, prison cells, and safe houses. People said he was untouchable, that he was so valuable to British intelligence that no law could touch him, that even murder would be forgiven if it protected him. But what people didn't fully understand was that Stakeknife wasn't just watching the violence. He was creating it. This is not a spy thriller. This is not a tale of heroism or clever intelligence work. This is a horror story about what happens when a state decides that some lives are expendable. This is the story of Freddy Scappaticci, a bricklayer, a father, and the most protected killer in British intelligence history. Before we descend into secret rooms, interrogation houses, and unmarked graves, take a moment to subscribe. This channel investigates the stories buried under redacted files and official silence. Turn on notifications, because some truths don't want to stay hidden. Belfast before the monster. To understand how Freddy Scappaticci became Stakeknife, you have to see where he came from. South Belfast, the markets area, working-class streets where loyalty meant survival and weakness was punished. Freddy was born in 1946, the son of an Italian immigrant who sold ice cream from a van. His father brought sweetness to the streets. Freddy absorbed something else entirely, the violence of a divided city. He was short, thick-set, always angry, a fighter from a young age. He loved football, loved boxing, and in 1960s Belfast, being good with your fists gave you status. It gave you protection. For a moment it looked like his future might be normal. He even trialed for Nottingham Forest, but history had other plans. Because by the early 1970s, Northern Ireland was burning. The troubles begin. British soldiers on the streets. Bombings, raids, funerals that never seemed to end. Like many young Catholic men in his community, Freddy Scappaticci joined the Irish Republican Army. At first he believed. He wanted the British out. He wanted to fight. In 1971, the British government introduced internment, arresting suspects without trial. Freddy was swept up and sent to Long Kesh prison. This was where reputations were made. Inside those cages were men who would become legends of the Republican movement. Freddy learned quickly. He stayed silent. He proved himself tough. He showed loyalty when it mattered. When he walked out of prison, he wasn't just another volunteer. He was trusted, and that trust would become lethal the moment everything changed. In 1978, something happened that had nothing to do with ideology. It was personal. Freddy got into an argument with a senior IRA commander. The details don't matter. Money, pride, a woman. What mattered was the ending. Freddy was beaten, publicly humiliated. For a man like him, humiliation was unforgivable. In that moment, the cause meant nothing. The revolution meant nothing. What remained was rage and a desire for revenge. He didn't want to leave the IRA. He wanted to rot it from the inside. So Freddy Scappaticci did something almost no one dared to do. He walked into a British Army barracks, and he asked for a job. The golden egg. British intelligence officers could hardly believe what they were hearing. Here was a committed IRA member, deeply embedded, angry, willing. They gave him a code name, Stakeknife, and just like that, British intelligence found what they would later call the golden egg. The deal was simple. Freddy would rise inside the IRA. He would provide names, locations, structures, secrets, and in return, he would be paid, protected, and preserved. By the 1980s, he was earning around £80,000 a year, a fortune at the time. By day, he was a bricklayer, a family man, a familiar face in local pubs. By night, he met handlers in dark cars and safe locations, handing over tapes and documents. But his true value came when he entered the most feared unit in the IRA, the Nutting Squad. Officially, it was called the Internal Security Unit. On the streets, it had a simpler name: the Nutting Squad. Their job was to hunt informers. If the IRA suspected someone was talking to the police or the army, this unit took over. The suspect would disappear, snatched from their home, their workplace, the street. They were taken to safe houses, remote farms, places no one could hear screams. Freddy Scappaticci didn't just join this unit. He rose to command it. He became the chief interrogator, the man who decided who lived and who didn't. Survivors described him as terrifying. He didn't just beat people, he broke them psychologically. Days of interrogations, mind games, cigarette burns, boiling water, endless violence. He needed one thing: a confession on tape. Once the tape existed, the decision was almost automatic. The victim would be driven to the border, told to walk down a dark road, and shot in the back of the head. And every single time this happened, British intelligence knew. They knew who had been taken. They knew where they were being held. They knew torture was happening. And they did nothing, choosing the spy over the victim. Why? Because if they intervened, Stakeknife might be exposed. And if he was exposed, the golden egg would be lost. So the British state made a calculation: cold, silent, and devastating. They allowed the murders to happen. Freddy Scappaticci was killing low-level informers to protect his position as the highest-level informer of all. A man murdering people for doing exactly what he was doing. The victims, these were not statistics. They were people. Take Frank Hegarty, an IRA quartermaster in Derry. He knew where weapons were hidden, and he was also talking to the police. When guns went missing, suspicion fell on Frank. He fled to England knowing his life was in danger. He missed home, he missed his family. And then Freddy Scappaticci called him. Freddy told him everything was fine, that he had smoothed things over, that it was safe to return. He gave his word. Frank believed him. Frank came home. He was never seen alive again. Freddy interrogated him, tortured him, recorded his confession. Frank Hegarty's body was later found on a border road, shot through the head. British intelligence knew Frank was returning. They knew it was a trap. They let it happen. And then there was Caroline Morland, a 34-year-old mother of 3, accused of being a minor informant. She was taken by the Nutting Squad and held for 10 days. 10 days of fear. 10 days wondering if she would ever see her children again. Freddy got his confession. Caroline was executed. And still, Stakeknife was protected. Still, the state paid him. Still, the bodies accumulated. Agent Stakeknife, by the 1980s and 1990s, Freddy Scappaticci had become untouchable. He walked the streets of Belfast like a ghost with power. Police, soldiers, and even IRA volunteers dared not approach him. He had a direct line to the highest levels of British intelligence, a connection managed through a secretive military unit known as the Force Research Unit, or FRU. But it wasn't just the army. MI5, the Domestic Intelligence Service, had their eyes and ears deep in the rat hole, a secure office where Freddy's intelligence was processed. That room was filled with smoke, tape recorders, and the screams of victims. Officers listened, documented, and filed. Every confession extracted under torture, every abduction, every execution, cataloged and archived. And still, no one intervened. The loyalist hit and the price of protection. In 1987, Freddy's luck almost ran out. Loyalist paramilitaries had identified him as a senior IRA target. They were planning to kill him. British intelligence faced a dilemma. If Stakeknife was eliminated, they lost their golden egg. But how could they stop the loyalists without exposing their source? The solution was horrifying in its simplicity. The hit squad was diverted, not to Freddy, but to Francisco Noder Antonio, a retired pensioner who had once been involved in Republican activities. He was innocent, a soft target. On a quiet morning, they kicked down his door and shot him dead in his bedroom. And just like that, Freddy Scappaticci lived. The British state had not just allowed a murder, they had selected the victim. The fallacy of the golden egg. The troubles eventually ended. In 1998, the Good Friday Agreement silenced the guns, but Freddy remained. He believed he was untouchable, that he would carry his secrets and pension into quiet retirement. Then in 2003, the first cracks appeared. A former intelligence handler operating under the alias Martin Ingram went public. He revealed the identity of Stakeknife and the grisly extent of his operations. The press ran headlines, "The spy at the heart of the IRA." Panic rippled through Belfast and Whitehall alike. Freddy did something bold. He didn't flee. He held a press conference. A grandfatherly figure stared into cameras and lied effortlessly. "I am not Stakeknife. I have never been an informer. I am being set up." He threatened legal action against the newspapers. For a moment, the world questioned, could it be wrong? The intelligence services knew the truth. They knew the IRA would investigate. They knew that if Freddy's cover was blown, he would be in mortal danger. Within days, Freddy disappeared. He was extracted to England, given a new identity, a house, and his pension. The mass murderer was now a protected retiree. The monster in hideaway. For the next 15 years, Freddy lived like a ghost. Neighbors saw an old man buying milk, keeping to himself. No one knew he had tortured dozens to death. Then in 2018, the police knocked on his door again. This time it wasn't IRA related. Investigators found abhorrent illegal material on his computer. The depravity shocked even hardened officers. He was dragged into a courtroom, not for murder but for possession. Frail, old, and sick, Freddy pleaded guilty. He received a suspended sentence and walked free. Once again, the ghost was seen. Operation Canova. The families of Freddy's victims were not silent. They demanded answers. Why were their loved ones murdered? Could the British state have stopped it? In 2016, the government launched Operation Canova, a massive investigation costing £40 million. Led by former police chief John Boucher, it lasted 7 years. Hundreds of witnesses were interviewed. Thousands of files were examined. But there were obstacles. MI5 and the security services delayed, withheld files, and tried to run out the clock. They were protecting reputations and the secrets of the rat hole. The investigators persisted, and what they uncovered shattered the mythology of Stakeknife. The truth revealed. In 2023, Freddy Scappaticci died at age 77 of natural causes. No trial, no prison, no public reckoning. He was buried in secret. Yet the Canova report, finalized in 2024 and updated in 2025, delivered its verdict. Devastating. The claim that Stakeknife saved hundreds of lives, a lie. The investigation found he likely saved 5 or 6 people at most. But the death toll he caused, far higher. The report concluded, Agent Stakeknife cost more lives than he saved. The British intelligence services protected a serial killer for nothing, allowing innocent people to be tortured and murdered to protect an informant whose intelligence was often irrelevant or already known. Many of the murders were preventable. The decision to prioritize the spy over the citizen had a human cost. Every victim, every abduction, every bullet, every scream, the state knew, and they chose silence. Freddy Scappaticci died. The men in the rat hole, the intelligence officers, the handlers. No one was prosecuted. Too much time had passed. Files were incomplete, evidence insufficient. Operation Canova closed, leaving families with a single bitter truth. The state had chosen a spy over their loved ones. Frank Hegarty, Caroline Morland, Francisco Notar Antonio, they had no justice, only a report. Legacy of the Dirty War. Stakeknife's story is a mirror to a darker truth. He was a monster created by war, sustained by the state, a weapon used by both sides. The IRA used him to instill terror. The British used him to spy. In the middle were victims, ordinary people, snatched from beds, driven to dark roads, killed for the sake of intelligence. There are no heroes in this story, only victims, and spies who watched them die. Was it worth it? Was the intelligence war worth the moral cost? Should the surviving handlers face trial even 40 years later? The questions remain, the answers do not. If you want to dive even deeper into the hidden crimes, untold operations, and intelligence scandals the world doesn't know, click the video on your screen. because some truths refuse to stay buried.